For a long time, when this was a one-volume book, the title of it was Constancy. I thought that was a one attribute that everyone could agree on. No one would disagree with that. I have been spiritually and aesthetically the same person from 1970 to now.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Crit House. I'm Jeff Larson. This is our first edition of the Crit House Book Edition. It is our conversation with photographers about the process of making books, and we hope to learn more about that so that we can all make better books ourselves. Our first episode, our first interview, is with legendary National Geographic photographer Sam Abell, who has been working on a book which will be coming out shortly, a 2-volume set of his. It is a retrospective of his work from the beginning until now, and it is a great book. I hope you enjoy it. We've broken the interview up into 4 separate episodes, so you'll see those over the coming weeks, and we hope you'll enjoy the Crit House Book Edition. Thanks for joining us.
Well, I will start by saying that I turned 80 in February, and it's around this time of life that photographers begin to think about summarizing their work, even if they are still full-time photographers and still producing, as I am. And I started this process, this conversation, with my long-term editor, Leah Ben David Val, about 10 years ago. So in 2015, we mapped out a retrospective book. It was 1 volume. It is now 2 volumes. And the story of the book is the story of its evolution from 1 volume to 2 in a slipcase. And that story goes all the way back to my college yearbook that I was editor of and photographer for, which was also 2 volumes in a slipcase. So I have returned to 1967 with this book, and I'm very happy. It's very exciting to do a 2-volume book. I know that from experience, and I like receiving them. I like thinking about them. I like seeing how they're structured, and I have had a very engaging time structuring this book with Leah and with others.
Well, you've been kind enough to share with me the PDF of the book, and I have to say, and I've told you this separately, it's one of the best things that I think I have seen in photographic books. You know, there are some great books that are out there. This thing that you have developed, these 2 volumes, it's up there in the pantheon of some of the great books that I have looked at. And I'll admit I have not seen the physical copy yet, but the PDF so far is it is lovely.
Well, thank you, Jeff. That's very meaningful to me because it was through books and magazines that I learned photography. So that pantheon that you talk about is very well known to me. I have a 300-volume library that I'm actually giving away at the end of this week to a man from Maine. A man from Maine is driving down here to gather my 300-volume photographic library and taking it away with him. I'm going to hold on to some books, though. The one, if I had to get my library down to 1, it would be this book, which I hope we have a chance to talk about. I want to draw attention to how slender it is. It's not 2 volumes. It's 1 volume.
So this is the Dorothea Lange book that opened your eyes to photography in a different way, if I remember you.
It was life-changing to me, this book. 60 pages, a life's work and a book for the ages. And I come back to this slender. You can hold it in your hands. You can walk and look at it, which I did one day in 1966 at the University of Kentucky. I possessed this book and walked across campus. And by the time I got to the other side of the campus, this book had changed my life. It had given me a blueprint for the life I wanted to live. And in many ways, I did live that life. And in many ways, did not live that life. You cannot, you can't walk in the footsteps of Dorothea Lange easily. I ended up walking really in my own footsteps, creating my own path. But that has led to this book. That has led to this book of probably 400 pages.
So you said in an earlier email that you were looking at the Dorothea Lange book as you were putting your book together. Is there some direct inspiration? Is there something in the structure of the book? Is there something in how she did it that made you come up with what you were going to do in your retrospective?
Her book is honest. I have always known that, and I've always aspired to that in my work and in bookmaking, to be humble, to be modest, to be understated, and fair to myself and fair to the reader about what's in the book, so that it was faithful example that a reader could follow if a reader was trying to map out a life in photography.
Well, it does that because you have broken it up into two volumes, and one volume are the years through Nat Geo, National Geographic, and then there's the second volume that is the post National Geographic years. That's how it's split up, which is a very clear and logical way of doing it too, because you chronologically from start to where you are now.
That's right. You pick it up right after college in 1970 on my first assignment for National Geographic, the island of Newfoundland. And volume one ends with me bowing and then shaking hands with the Emperor of Japan. And that is a long way from Newfoundland in winter. And I have climbed from the most humble assignment to the most exalted. But here's the thing, the Emperor knew my name and asked about my well-being. And in that moment, I declared my retirement from National Geographic because I was 58 years old, something like that. And I had a significant number of years ahead of me. And the second volume covers the years since National Geographic, as you said. Those are also the digital years. The volume one is analog photography, and volume two is digitally based photography. So there is a clean, logical separation for the two volumes. It isn't just a whimsical date, 2001. It was a decisive break in the chronology of my career.
When you look back at those two books, the early career and then the later book, do you see a difference in the imagery from one to the other?
I see growth, but not difference. Does that compute? For a long time, when this was a one volume book, the title of it was Constancy. I thought that that was a one attribute that everyone could agree on. No one would disagree with that. I have been spiritually and aesthetically the same person from 1970 to now. So there is a definite continuousness of seeing and of thinking. I believe that my photography is more complex and subtler than it was 50, 60 years ago. But it is driven by the same sensibility.
I see that. So can I ask you some specific questions about the process?
Yes.
There are a lot of paths that one can make to go to publication for a book. And a lot of times people will go to different kinds of publishers. And you worked with National Geographic for a long period of time, and then some people decide to have full control of the entire process and to self-publish. And you've self-published. Was there a reason for you deciding to self-publish as opposed to going one of those other paths that are options?
Well, you're right. I have worked with a number of publishers, and all of them, I think, did the best job that they could, but I was left unsatisfied. And you've said the key word, which is control. So the way you get control is to be able to finance your own book. And thanks to the internet, there are ways to do that, and there are people who are going to financially support this project. And therefore, I've come to the project with money, but I've also come with aspirations, and that is to make a better book. In fact, to make the best book that's possible. I think I know what it is. It's just never happened for a variety of reasons. Each book that I've done could have been better, I believe. I love books, their beauty, their finish, their how they feel in my hand, the object itself. And it doesn't have to be, I'm not talking about money exclusive, I'm talking about love.
Yes.
I would like to make this book, and I feel like I have made up to this point, I've made this book with people who are loving toward it. And I want that in the printing and in the binding. And I have a collaborator, Karen Pasilis, who is a photographer living in Portugal, but a collaborator of mine for about 20 years. And Karen comes from the printing, binding industry. Her family was in it. She knows it. She's self-published her own books, and she is going to produce it. I could not. Maybe the thing I want to stress here right now is collaboration. I need it, I value it, and I would say that I love it. It's life itself to collaborate with like-minded people on a high-minded project. People ask me when is the book coming out, Sam, because it's been 10 years in the making.
That's a question on my list.
There is no short answer. But the honest answer is never. Because I don't want it to end. I don't want the process of thinking about it and of working on it and of cutting it and maybe some expanding it, of revising it is a never-ending and always engaging. I came very close to publishing this book, Leah and I both, in 2020. And it was ready to go, ready to submit as a one-volume book. And the pandemic struck, and it struck Italy very hard where it was going to be printed. And I pulled the book. I am so, so glad that that happened. In the ensuing 5 years, the book has gotten significantly better, richer, more meaningful. And it's been my artistic occupation for 5 years to make it that way.
Well, it's one of the great questions in art, I think, is when do you know you're done?
Yeah, yes. Actually, my wife and I were talking about that yesterday. We once watched a sculptor work in clay, and he twice went by the finished sculpture and kept adding to it and making it worse. By the way, called A Giacometti Portrait by James Lord. James Lord sat for a Giacometti portrait, and Giacometti was notorious for scraping the canvas clean between sittings. James Lord would sit for Giacometti for hours, few hours, and look at the end result, be happy with it, and come back the next day and see it vanished. He also saw Giacometti go by the best version. It's part of the artistic process, as you say, when to quit.
Well, being a person in the world who's looking forward to the books, I hope it's soon.
It is going to happen. The book is going to come out. I want it not for myself. What I've learned about book creation is that the creation is for you. The book is not. The book is for others.
Yes.
But they will not have what you had, and that is the book building and the collaboration, all the things we've talked about. There's great joy and great meaning in book creation. But you are one of the few people that's seen the PDF, and your reaction to it is inspiring to me because You and others like you are the audience for this book. And I would like it to be for you what the Dorothea Lange book was and is for me.